And what I found that 90% of the arguments that anti-Catholics or non-Catholics make against us are logical fallacies. That if you take their logic to its full conclusion, can I give you one example?
Yeah, please.
Let's give you one practical example.
This.
I had a friend come over that I was good friends with, and he brought his brother over, and we were working on it. This was a work project. We were actually working, hanging up an air conditioning unit. And he comes up to me and he says, Jimmy has something to ask you. And I said, okay. And he said, Jimmy looks at me and says, I just want to know why you all pray to Mary. I just want to know. I said, okay. And I looked at him. I said, I guess you kind of see that as a form of worship, right? And he said, well, yeah, kind of I do. I said, okay, Jim, I want to answer your question two ways. Okay. So humor me here. I'm going to answer your question two ways. I said, so let's do part one now. I looked at him and says, so Jim, tell me what I must do to be saved. He said, well, you have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I said, right. Lord and Savior. Too many people want to accept him as Savior only. They get that fire insurance. It's Lord and Savior. So in other words, you have to be willing to change your life. He becomes Lord of your life. He said, okay, I can agree with that. I said, okay. I said, but what do I need to accept about him, Jim? Can I just accept that Jesus was a really smart guy that said a lot of nice things, a lot of wise things? And he looks at me perplexed. He says, well, no. Well, why not, Jim? He said, you have to accept him for who he is. Really? I do? Who is that? He said, well, he's God. I said, he's God? He is? I'm playing him, okay?
Yeah.
And he says, well, yeah. I said, Jim, I just want to make sure I'm following you correctly. Are you saying that I have to recognize Jesus as God, that I have to assent to his divinity in order to worship him? Is this what you're telling me? And he said, well, yeah. Well, that's really interesting because I don't recognize Mary as God, but you just accused me of worshiping her.
Yeah.
His jaw dropped.
I was wondering where you're going.
So it's just took his own logic round full circle and used it against him. So